15 years.
All right, everybody, welcome to this wintry regular January meeting of Downtown Sarasota Condo Association. I'm David Lough, president, and let's look around. I believe Roger and Jamie are not here, but I knew about Jamie. I'm not sure about Roger. So I think we can declare a quorum. With that said, let's declare a quorum. Next order of business is the approval of the minutes, and it's on me. We sent you a couple drafts of that. The second one is a better draft, so you had that 24 hours ago. So I hope everybody had a chance to look at that. Are there any edits, comments, concerns? If not, could we have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Okay. And moving along to our next order of business is the treasurer's report. Clark, I guess we'll do the treasurer's report like a balance sheet kind of thing now, and then later on we'll get into the budget for next year. So what have you got?
Okay, so our Seacoast Bank checking account has $6,058.65. This afternoon.
And then I guess when we get to the budget, we can talk a little about renewals. And I think for those of you who don't know, we get a slug of money coming in typically December, the first of the year, which we bleed down for the rest of the year. So 6,000 may seem like a fair bit, but that's what we live on in part for the rest of the year. So thanks. Next thing, I'm pleased to introduce Stacie. I spent some time with her last week, acquainting her with DSCA a little bit. Interesting things at Chicago, who brought the weather with her to some extent. You've been with the city, I believe, something like, is it almost 20 years?
21.
21 years.
And
And
I don't look that old. Right?
and the city's at about 850-ish employees. She's going to take us through a PowerPoint, which I really, really like. And if there's anybody who knows a lot about the city, I would say it's Stacie. And your undergraduate degree was in criminology, is that right?
Yeah, criminology and psychology.
Okay, well, that's
yes. And I ended up in HR, so
yeah.
I think it fit. I don't know.
Okay, so we're remiss in not having invited Stacie before because of the importance of her function to our entire city. So with that said, Stacie, let's go.
Oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. It's been great getting to know you and introducing and getting to know people on this board. So thank you for having me. I'll try to face the audience and the virtual audience. Again, my name is Stacie Mason. I have been with the city since 2003, which was very interesting. I can remember my orientation with the city. Payne Park was just getting built, and you guys will probably remember that, but it was wonderful to see that progress happen. So now when we take all of our new employees through our trolley tour and orientation, we show them different locations. I can always say, this used to be nothing. It used to be a mobile home park. And now we have this beautiful, as I like to call it, our Central Park. So yeah, I've been around for a few years, but our authority, or mine specifically as the Director of Human Resources, comes from the City Code of Ordinance. We have a chapter that's called Personnel. And within that, the HR Director actually has outline of the responsibilities. Some of those things are such things as personnel records for the city, compensation plans, classifications, which are job descriptions and requirements that employees have to have when they join us, labor negotiation responsibilities, employees' pay to make sure they're paid correctly. And then also under our umbrella is training and education responsibilities. And that actually all comes from the ordinance. Some additional duties that we are tasked with just by the city manager's purview are things like benefits, all benefits and total compensation for employees. We actually have recruitment for all city positions under our umbrella. We partner with the police highly. As you may know, they have a recruiter, a full-time and a part-time recruiter at the police department. We have one recruiter in our human resources department. We also have risk management under human resources. And we'll talk a little bit more about that and who kind of is the lead on that and what that might mean for you guys as community members and citizens. Advisory boards, we have two under our umbrella. We have the Human Relations Board, what is focused on an ordinance to prevent discrimination, both in employment and housing, fair housing. That's a very thorough ordinance if you're ever interested in reading that. And we have a citizen board that we advise or we're the support of. If we ever get discrimination claims, we take them through that board. Our second board is Citizens with Disabilities, that is very highly engaged in issues within our community to make sure there's accessibility for anyone with disabilities or mobility issues. If you've ever had a chance to hear or see our Eco Rover that we just got at Lido, it is for mobility. It is a motorized wheelchair that individuals can use independently, and we're very proud of that. We purchased that with funds through our Citizens with Disabilities group, our advisory board, and it is free for use for our citizens and visitors. They just need to contact us, and we'll talk about who they can contact. But we're very proud of that, and we've actually had, since we launched it in mid-July, and counting in some of our cold days here, we've had 19 different engagements with people using that, from visitors to full-time residents here. So we're very proud of that. ADA oversight also is Americans with Disabilities Act. So Jake Brown, who I'll introduce you to by picture on one of these slides, is very involved with disability issues, mobility and accessibility issues in our community. So that's under our umbrella also. So on our HR team, we have 11 members. I have chosen 4 to kind of talk about today that are more external, maybe focused, are people in our community you would interact with more than individuals that maybe are just internal employee support. The first one is Dominique Anderson. She is our general manager. She has oversight of employee and retiree benefits. We have a huge group of retirees that remain on our medical, dental, vision, life insurance benefits, numbering a little over 500. So it's a big contingency of the support that we provide to the community for that. She manages all of our employee data and our compensation. That's under her umbrella. And then our recruiter is Barry Ames. He does all the recruitment for the city. And a lot of times we know artificial intelligence is becoming very big. In the HR world, that's used a lot for screening and identifying keywords and sorting through applications. Though we're not there yet, maybe we'll be given that prerogative in the future. We touch every application that comes into the city and we review it. So that's very important for us to get qualified applicants, get them to the departments to review and start the interview process. So this is very heavy for us in terms of receiving all AFs for applications and sorting through them and actually touching them and looking at them. Very important. He attends job fairs. He does outreach to our local schools and colleges. One of the biggest kind of benefits or points that we do with our public is internships. We are always trying to draw our college people into the city, giving them an array of all the different departments we have. We have, as you guys may know, many of the positions much better than I do with the interaction you do with city employees, but we have engineers to landscaping people to, the PEs, and then our executive teams. There is just a wide array of business opportunities within the city, and people don't always understand we're that big of an employer. As David had mentioned, we are 860 some employees, and that fluctuates on seasonal too. We have summer camps for all of our recreational areas. And then the Van Wezel, as you can imagine, during the season, we have to hire more. So that kind of fluctuates based on the season. So Barry is our recruiter. If you ever have anyone that's interested in city employment, or maybe just talking about our opportunities, you might have people that that are visiting and just want to take a tour, we're happy to do any of that. We love talking about our city. Mr. John Powers is our risk manager for the city. He interacts heavily with people in the community. If unfortunately anyone has any bodily injuries, maybe damage, unfortunately once in a while, our big garbage trucks, which we love our garbage truck drivers, but those are big vehicles to drive. Sometimes they might damage something. And Mr. Powers is the one that works with the citizens to make sure we make that right if that is our fault. So a good guy to know if you need anything. And then Mr. Jake Brown is our ADA coordinator. He oversees what we call our ADA transition plan. So if we have physical barriers within our city facilities, our sidewalks, our intersections, we have a plan that has identified those, and then he oversees that we get those fixed. Transition plans, if you're familiar with them, can be as long as 20, 30 years out. There are a lot of big capital projects that sometimes need funding for to get the fixes. But he oversees that plan to ensure we have eyes on it and we continue to look at any of the fixes we can do. He manages both our advisory boards, which we love that. A huge citizen interaction with our advisory boards, always bringing good information to the table. You guys probably are very aware, but all advisory boards are open to the public. We would love more people attending, more people involved. If you ever have an opportunity, please come join us at our meetings. And again, he's a public contact for any disability issues or concerns. And again, we have a few other folks, but these were the ones I wanted to highlight that are usually in contact with our public more often than not. Some of our challenges in HR, how do we stay competitive? There are a lot of employers out there. How do we get the people to come to us? We are constantly looking at our compensation package, and we think of it as a total compensation package. We have an employee health clinic, if you were not aware. It was very important to us to have that benefit. We have really good medical, dental, life insurance, long-term disability plans, and we package all that as a total compensation in addition to our wages. We have always fought against private industry and our wages, and that's always pretty tough. We have become much more competitive in the last 4 years. I believe it was in 21, we went to the Florida retirement system. Previously, we were called a local pension plan, and we converted to the state pension plan. Not only did that help the city's liability in terms of cost to get away from your own local pension plan, but Florida retirement system is portable, as you may know. So if you worked for Manatee County, they would have FRS. Let's say they want to come join us. It's portable. They stay in their same pension plan. That has helped us tremendously to gain different people that would never look at the city. They would have to exit a state pension plan. Now we kind of have that movement back and forth. And a lot of people say, oh, that means people will leave us to go to these other entities. We actually haven't seen that because I think we have such a good environment, the benefits we offer, and just the quality of staff we do have. We are not seeing a lot of people exit because, oh, I can go to Manatee County, they have FRS also. Our retention rate, which we do keep an eye on, government generally has much lower retention and turnover rate than private industry. Ours is 4%. So people are not voluntarily exiting. A lot of times we'll see retirements or promotional opportunities. We know we've lost some executive levels and some management because they had growth opportunities maybe with another county. We hate to see that, but we also, if they want to go into a directorship or a management role and we didn't have it to offer, we see them as developing. So we hate to lose them, but we know they're also developing. Compensation study cadence is also very important. So we're currently doing a compensation study, looking at other public entities and private entities, making sure we're paying the right amount for the right jobs. So that's important to do that cadence at least 3 to 5 years to keep your pay in the right range. Just kind of a little advertisement for us. If you're ever on our job site, our city website, up at the top is a jobs link. You can click on that and it will take you to what we call our career page. What's kind of exciting about this, and most entities have career pages, but what I've highlighted up there in the corner, it says, please introduce yourself. So right now we have 14 jobs available. Maybe they're not of interest to you at all, or to any of your relatives, neighbors. Please share this because we love to see people that live in the city work for the city. But you can click on that and actually say, introduce yourself to us and say, hey, I'm a prospect that you don't have anything available right now, but I'm really interested in human resources, let's say. And then we will keep that on hand. We have an opening, we will reach out to them and say, hey, now we have an opening. So we really love to have that, because not at all times do we have what people are looking for, but then we have some names gathered, and we're ready to go if we have those openings. So please share that if you would. I wanted to talk briefly about some of our current recruitments. There's some really great positions that we're working on right now. So two that I thought might be very relevant to this group is our sustainability manager position, and then our city manager position, which we are going to talk a bit
I'm
about.
looking for the pen that I've been
one's
using
very
out there.
exciting. The sustainability manager, that position resides in the planning department. Jeff Redenberg had been our long-term sustainability planner or manager. He exited. We hated to see that loss, and we started advertising in October to fill this position. We got really great, again, qualified candidates, 23 high-level candidates. And again, I think it's because of our packages that we offer, Florida retirement system, and some of our other benefits. The department completed their process for interviews, and I'm happy to say they've actually selected someone for hire
this is
on
the one I wanted.
January 22nd. So that position will be filled. The wonderful applicant that's going to be joining us actually worked for Sarasota County in their sustainability program. And then she was in a nonprofit prior to that. So she has 5+ years in sustainability and a master's degree in global sustainability. So we're very excited to have her on board. I'm sure you guys will meet her sooner than later, but that's great. So that's one that we feel very proud about. That'll be coming to fruition later in the month. And then let's jump to the city manager search. We do have an executive search firm, Colin Benzinger and Associates. That name may be familiar to a few of you. We engaged them previously in 2012 to help us with our city manager search. We currently as of today, are completing what we call the recruitment brochure. It's all the information about our community, about the position, about what the commission's intent and needs are and wants are in this position. So we just were finalizing that, and they are opening it for applications on January 9th. So this is up-to-date information right now. So we're very excited to get that on the street, as we might say. This link actually, which doesn't really help all of us in the room, but when this gets distributed, you can actually click on that link, and that's where the advertisement will be. So if you'd be patient and wait until after January 9th, you can click on that and our advertisement will be there, and look at the wonderful brochure they've created. They will accept and review all applicants. We're looking to have it open roughly 30 days. Now, we could extend that if we don't get the quality we want. I do believe we will. This is a cherished area to be in and to work in. So the firm will review them. We will receive, meaning the city commissioners and the point people. I just happen to be the project manager on this project. Myself and our executive team and the commissioners will receive an update. We're looking at around February 12th. So we will get a memo saying, we received probably 300 applicants. We've narrowed it down. Now, I don't know how many we'll receive, but a lot, I'm sure. So we'll get that update. We are looking to have a finalist list by the end of March. So once we know what the applicants are, we're going to turn this around fairly quickly. And then the finalists will be on site by April of 25. So that's kind of our timeline right now. The on-site is estimated to be 2 days long in April. So we are really going to use those 2 days to the fullest, from early morning to one night. It will be an open receptionist that might take them until 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. So we're really going to put them through the paces. We will have a reception for the public, for anyone interested. We're also encouraging our employees, come meet the finalists. The commissioners will be asked to be there to get feedback from anyone that attends at that particular open receptionist. The second day of the on-site will be interviews. Commission will meet with the applicants one-on-one, as they can do, and then to meet with them as a group, it'll be a public meeting. So that will be posted, and of course we would want the public there also, have any feedback or just to listen to the interviews that occur at that day. And then we will end the process of the on-site, again with the group meeting. We don't expect the commissioners to make a choice at that moment after you've just, been with somebody for one-on-ones and group interviews. So the following week after that, we will ask them for another special meeting to make a decision. So that falls, I believe that's about the third week in April. So we're hoping we will have an answer by the third week in April. So I know that's kind of exciting news. It's exciting for us. So we're really looking forward to that. But by the end of the week, we should have the advertisement out. So I know that was a lot of information. I thank you guys.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And our protocol is we open it up to our board members for questions first. So any questions, comments? I guess I have go ahead.
Just real quickly, in the 800 some odd employees, I know oftentimes they talk about the police department being a fairly large section of their budget. So how many of that 800 are SPD?
At the PD, there's about 250 employees, and I believe they're about 75% of the general budget. So it's interesting. They are not the largest department, but they're one of the largest. Yes, good question.
One question, I'll step in. So the process on the city manager is the search firm will wait for people to apply, as opposed to some experience I've had of consulting and researching and contacting
Kind of reaching out,
a target,
Yes.
if you will. Talk to us about
Sure,
that.
that's a good point. They do have what they call their active database of people that they can share this with. So I do believe that they have thousands of individuals, not only in the state of Florida, but nationally, that they know that they will send this advertisement to. They will not narrow it down necessarily to a select few, but they will use a database of people they've interacted before with for those kind of top executive levels. So we are expecting them to do some proactive reaching out, but that would then have those individuals coming forward to apply for it.
One other thing I've heard talked about is there any bias is the wrong word, to select from Florida or a state who have legislative situations that are somewhat Florida-ish?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. The statement we made in the brochure doesn't say you need to be from Florida, but Florida experience is preferred just because of the sensitivity of this state, our public records, and some other laws that we expect our city manager to know. It's not required, but we have noted that it would be good to bring that to the table if you did have Florida experience.
Other question to Ken, microphone, please.
Stacie, I have a question about the advisory boards.
Yeah.
I have a question about a chair, how the chairs are selected or how they should be selected. You know, I'm on this new downtown master plan update committee. And one of the first things we're going to have to do is select a chair. And we don't know each other.
Yeah.
There are 13 people and they have diverse backgrounds. Do you have any advice about how chairs should be selected for these advisory boards?
That's a good question, especially coming in not being familiar with each other. Generally, our boards, and Ken, you probably have served on a lot of them, but our boards are generally 5 to 7 that we oversee. And they're a group that gets to know and are familiar with each other. And what we do on our advisory boards, and it depends on the ordinance too, or on that committee, maybe the rules for that committee. But annually, the board selects a chair and a vice chair just by, nominations, self-nominations or other nominations. But in that situation, that's going to be very interesting. I don't know if you guys get any information about each other beforehand, or if that could be asked almost like a VC or, CVs. That might be helpful, or, do a meeting or so before a permanent chair is selected. Because, I think the important part is somebody that can run a good meeting and also have a chair that can step in and help. So it's just running an effective meeting, keeping to the agenda. And if you're not familiar with each other, you don't know that who has those skills right away. Yeah, I don't know if they could just temporarily have somebody guiding them until they can make a choice later, but
Well, the Purple Ribbon Committee did not have a good chair, and she's gone. But what was really helpful was Jim Shirley coming in to
Yeah.
help give some sense of direction
mhm.
to the committee. And I know that they're hiring an advisor to that committee, but the chair concerns me because it's going to be tough.
Yeah, that will be.
No chair.
Well, maybe the advisor can guide that for a little while until the, appropriate information is known to select the chair. Might be a consideration, because the first, item of business, that's hard to do, to select a chair when you're not familiar with who. Yeah, it'll be a tough one.
Hey, I've just got one final. If
I have
no,
one quick-
no, yeah.
Stacie, okay, thank you.
When you look at the brochure, it's kind of a job spec, right?
Yes.
And there's all sorts of attributes that the city manager could have. Could be how well they're going to work in the culture. It could be how many years of experience, could be their technical skills. There's a whole lot of things. Are you driving consensus with the commissioners since they're making a decision on what are the most important attributes for this
That's good.
particular role? Because if they go off on their own, I don't know how you're ever going to find the right candidate because there's no consensus on what you want.
Yeah, that's a great question. And stepping into this, that was some concern. Because you're right. I mean, there's 5 different opinions that could go 5 different ways. With the consultant coming in, they actually came on site and did one-on-ones with each commissioner, and then met with myself, Pat, and Doug as the executive group, as the project management team, and said, surprisingly, they are, have consensus on these items. There's 2 or 3 things that are a little, outside of the 5 have made consensus. So we felt really good about that. I thought we'd have 5, 5 different ways to go, but it was surprisingly very consistent with kind of their needs or wants, the attributes really that were needed for the position to fit. But yeah, thank you. I didn't talk much about that, but that happened early on, which I was happy about.
Listen, is there anybody else? Well, thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Very nice to meet you.
Okay, and if we can help in this search process, if we can provide any positive input or be involved, please let us know. Okay, okay, thank you.
The view.
Okay.
Very good.
All right, our next order of business is a new associate member recommendation and application. And I'm glad to see George Root. Good to meet you in person, sir. The application is from the Stockham Law Group. And George and I spent some time on the phone earlier today, and I'll let him speak a little bit more about his firm and stuff, but his firm is doing work for a number of our members already, and we appreciate him reaching out. So I think our protocol here is to make a recommendation to accept the application of George and his firm as an associate member at the gold level. And is there a motion to welcome them to, so moved by Ken, I believe, and a second by Peter, and so welcome them. George, as I mentioned to you on the phone, I'd like to give you just a couple minutes here to introduce your firm, and welcome to the DSCA family.
Thank you, David. My name is George Root, as David told you. I'm an attorney. Just wait.
Okay. Let's try again, please.
Okay. My name is George Root. I'm an attorney with the Stockham Law
I
Group.
got you. Just give me a second. Try it again.
All right. I'm
All
George,
right.
as David relayed. I'm with the Stockham Law Group. I practice condo and HOA general counsel law. Been doing it about 14 years, a little over 14 years. Represent condos and HOAs all over the region, including several in your area. I represent the Boulevard. Can you guys hear us?
Yeah, we got your back on you. We can hear
Okay.
you.
Yeah, now we got both.
So I represent condos and HOAs as general counsel. Do everything from assessment collection to violation enforcement amendments. Kind of like I like to think of myself as a risk manager, a board coach. I'm someone you can call up and talk to about some of the issues you're working through. If something's a little outside my wheelhouse, I'll help you find the right attorney to handle that more narrow issue. The rest of our firm does first-party property insurance claims. So if your carrier denies a casualty event, denies coverage or underpays a claim, that's when they get involved. I practice all over the area and all over the state, and I appreciate the opportunity to join your group. One of my clients that's part of your organization is the Boulevard of Sarasota, and I'm down there quite a bit with them and some other clients in the area. I apologize for not being there in person today. My girls have theater practice tonight, and I'm on point for picking them up, so I figured I'd better attend via Zoom so I'm not late for pickup. So I appreciate you bearing with me, and glad to join the organization.
All right. Welcome, George.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, we good to go now? Okay. All right. Moving on the next.
Have a motion.
Oh, sorry.
I move that we.
Oh,
accept the
okay.
application.
And we, okay, I'm sorry. So we can. Moved in, and, okay, so, and we have a second, so all in favor? Aye. Apologies, everybody.
I may have had some trouble picking up. Is his first name George or?
George,
James? I mean,
Roger.
John, I see it up there.
Yeah,
there.
Yeah.
George Root,
Hey, did you get my scripts?
right?
That's right.
Okay. Moving on, the next order of business is the approval of the, or discussion approval of the budget for next year. We have gone through numerous drafts of this. and
Did you get that
one of the
coupon?
things, Clark, you could please
How much did
chime in here.
How much did my prep
This
stuff
year,
cost?
we now have
Yeah,
kind of a
what did
clean
it cost?
cutoff, or cleaner cutoff at the year end because of some invoices from our marketing support person that have come in, and receipt of a lot of our membership dues. So Clark, can you kind of talk us through the revenue, kind of a bigger picture side of this, and then we can talk about the budget that we sent to everybody.
Sure. We decided to use rather than try and project numbers of members and dollars, we just went with the membership we have right now, with a sense that we need to add more. But if everybody pays, our revenue would start out at almost 29,000. And going through the expenses, the group, one of the highest expenses that we have to deal with is Robin Parsons and Parsons Marketing, who is sort of integral to getting our website taken care of and all the supporting documents. And so the group has pledged to reduce the number of hours. So that this year we actually had almost $16,000 in Robin's charges, and we're looking to reduce that to 12.5. So we're pretty close on expenditures we're looking at versus our revenue. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and keep our membership up.
Yeah, and I think from a big picture, we intend to continue with the more or less the model we've been using for the last few years, and that is the 2 platinum workshops a year. And the only thing, one thing different to, this year is we're budgeting some money for the survey that we didn't do this past year, right? So bringing that back, but with the assumption we can do it for about half the price by volunteer labor. And I know Bob Firth is, stepping up to the plate to help on that. The other thing is Wild Apricot, budgeting for, rather than 2 years, 1 year of its expense. Is that right?
Right, that's right.
Okay.
So
Um,
will be an annual, hopefully it won't be too inflated next year.
Right. And as you alluded to, the idea is to do a better job at recruiting and retaining members based on DSCA's somewhat higher visibility, for lack of a better word, right? And
Right,
do a
for
better
sure.
job.
For sure.
Patrick, you've been looking at this, and thanks for the help on, revisions we've made and comments and so forth. And you have anything to
No, I think
add?
Parks has done a good job of trying to balance out the forecasted revenue and bringing the expenses in line. So that's how it appears as a balanced budget. We do have a challenge to continue to show benefits and continue to maintain and increase our membership.
Yeah. And we did publish our accomplishments list and are using that with our renewals as a way to, and I think that we've got to do a better job of beating the bushes and follow up, and some of that's on me. And we're trying to, for $250 a year for a condo, I sure hope that we're providing a degree of value. Any other discussions? Peter, do you have any comments on this? Any concerns or anything? I think we run a pretty lean ship here. And I think we're getting value for our news updates and newsletter. Pretty good reviews of that. Typically, we want to kind of keep on with that.
Any questions from our member reps?
Yeah. Member reps, any, Jim, yeah, Peter?
Yeah, just to follow up with that, I circulate the newsletter through our system for our residents. We get some really positive reaction. Yeah, the newsletter.
Thank you.
And I'll just offer that you recruited pretty hard.
We try, but thanks.
Thank you, everyone. I've been thinking about this issue for a while. I've always thought of Sarasota as the Goldilocks size. It's got big enough to have all the cultural amenities, but of the right size so that people feel that they're welcome to become civically engaged. And the more and more people who move in, the bigger and bigger the city gets. I worry that that culture that encourages, facilitates, recruits, et cetera, civically engaged people, that size doesn't work well beyond a certain size. I don't know if Chicago, for example, has a downtown Sarasota or Chicago condos. I just say that because I thought there ought to be some sort of program that sort of, I would call it Newcomers Academy, so that when people move into the city, they get a very quick education on how they can become involved and what are the issues that might attract their attention and, allow them to feel a sense of belonging. And I know it's just philosophy, but I do worry about what happens when the city gets so large that particular aspect of the civic culture is strained. So, and that's my lecture for the day.
Civic welcome.
Thank you. I think that's a good point. Any other comments on the budget or, yes, Bob Firth?
I think, I hope I'm loud enough to be whatever. But I think as far as kind of to appeal to additional new members and to get more involvement with the members that we have, given, my wife's the HOA president in this building as an example in Broadway Promenade. And I think the involvement that we could get more of the actual associations or the HOAs involved more in the group would be a great benefit, because I think there's an incredible opportunity to use the Downtown Condo Association as a vehicle for condo associations to share common issues and such. I mean, like the insurance craziness that's happened over the last couple of years. I mean, just as one example, and how they weathered the storm. I mean, I know before the meeting today, everybody was coming, how's your building doing? How's your building doing? And those are all common issues that everybody that lives in a condo in downtown Sarasota has. And I think if we could get more involvement with the association boards, we would get more support and possibly more members and more involvement.
It's all yours.
I'm not sure exactly the vehicle doing that one. Hopefully it's maybe doing things more with the survey and all, which I know is very valuable to board members, because they'd like to know what's going on. Are they competitive in their rates? Are they providing the same services? Those kind of things are very valid.
I think Bob makes a good point, and he's kind of stepped up to the plate to, get more actively involved in that. And I think with the survey, this will be our third survey, and trend-wise, and with the issues that have been, before the community with storms, insurance rates, inflation, I think you make really good points. So with that said, if there are no other comments, may we have a motion to adopt the budget?
So,
Second.
Let's-
I'm sorry, who went when? Thank you.
So Ken Sheelan first, and then Patrick Gannon
Patrick, you want a
second. And I'll call for a vote this time, Peter? Yeah, okay. All of those in favor? Aye. So unanimously approved. Thank you. The next item is my recommendations for new board members. You may recall last year, I think about this time, we invited Peter Blanton to join the board. I'm going to use the term off-cycle, if that's the right word. And one of the things is I reflected on things that over the holidays and as we begin the year, that we're wishing to bring into the fold additional board members who have demonstrated interest and skills and involvement. And both Bob Firth has been actively attending our meetings and contributing on the Bay Park Conservancy, and Patrick McNamee I've gotten to know in connection with some zoning matters over the last 4 or 5 months. We circulated their bios, and impressive, and I've really enjoyed the work I've done with Bob and Patrick. So I would like to move to welcome these to the board. And again, this would have to be kind of reaffirmed, I guess, at our annual meeting. Peter tells me our bylaws, this is okay from a bylaw standpoint. And we do know that Roger Berry is officially probably going to have to move off the board because of his place of residence. We're hopeful that he'll continue as a chair involved with the Transportation Committee, but officially we're going to be down a member. So I don't know how to have discussion on this. Patrick, would you like to say a few words about
Sure.
yourself and your feelings about the board?
Sure. Thank you, David. I am a resident at the Boulevard, and my wife Sandra is here. She's been joining most of the meetings over the last 5 or 6 months as we became introduced. I'm the Boulevard rep, so I learned a lot from David, and I worked closely with Patrick and Peter over the past 5 or 6 months on some pretty important topics, which led me to better understand how things work in the city of Sarasota, and more importantly, how we can get some things done by putting our mind to this and building the relationships and coming up with the data, et cetera. So for me, it's been fascinating just in the last 5 or 6 months. I don't think Sandra have been disengaged in anything since my other previous boards. We've been in Sarasota full-time for 10 years, and we lived at Boulevard for 3. We lived on Golden Gate Point and Vista Bay Point for 7 years, and I was the president of that condo association for that period of time. We're happy to be at the Boulevard. We're not, and we're happy to be part of the neighborhood. So that's me.
And Bob?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to more involvement in the board. Obviously, it's I think that, again, kind of going back with talking about the budget, with getting involvement with the other associations and growing the group and on that level is such. I was a real estate broker I've got my license in 1986, so a while. Basically, it's good to see it from there. I'm not an active agent anymore, but as far as being a broker, I still have my brokers. I'm still current on my broker's license and all. But the association is a great vehicle, and I think we can grow it from where we are now.
Great.
So with that said, I guess how protocol, may I make a motion to appoint Patrick and Bob as board members? I would like to make that motion. And Patrick is seconding it. Any discussion? If not, may we please vote? All in favor? And unanimous. Welcome. Okay. One thing that Patrick, Gannon, and I touched on, and I didn't realize, I know we're going to have board elections coming up in March, and I think this is going to be my 4th year. I didn't time. Yeah, this is my 4th year, and I thought it was my 3rd. And I just want to signal to the group, I guess there's been a tradition of after 4 years, maybe the baton passes. And I would certainly welcome passing the baton. So I'm just asking not for any direction today, but I just want to show a willingness that I don't want to overextend my welcome or the tradition here as we go forward. So any discussion on that?
Yeah, I think
No.
we should, discuss whether we're gonna let them off the board.
Well, you know, it's not
Doing
like
a terrific job,
It's
so.
not like the US Constitution, that we have a lot of flexibility here. And not necessarily.
Not a lot of other options.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah,
there are
term limits.
Okay, we'll come back to that. In seriousness, if I let down the side, we need to better job of recruiting board members and more of a degree of diversity, and want to be working on that. So looking for ideas. I'm got a couple outreaches I'm doing, but I'm certainly welcome. I was last night, the Rosemary board added two people who happen to be women to their board and so forth. I'm mindful that we should look for outreach for diversifying our board too. So, okay, we'll come back to this. Moving ahead, old business and city updates. I'll make any comments I have. I thought Kathy was going to be here. as we move on. So the next item is Ken, Arts and Cultural. You said you have something interesting for us.
Oh, here it is. Oh, in front of me. Yeah, I have several things I wanted to mention. Van Wezel is back in operation as of this week, and I've asked Mary Bensel if I could take a tour of the hall now that it's back in operation, to take a look at, see what damage has been repaired and what hasn't been repaired. And I'd also like to take a look at how the audiences are responding to the theater. I know that most theaters have been selling out through the holidays. So we'll see if the Van Wezel's recovered. The Purple Ribbon Committee has a meeting on the 13th. The only thing on their agenda is the Karen's Engineering update on where they are in the process of finishing their evaluation of the Van Wezel, the engineering evaluation. The Tourist Development Council is meeting tomorrow at 4 p.m. in the County Commission building in Venice to present a new program called the Tourist Development Cultural Arts Program. You know that the Arts and Cultural Alliance of Sarasota County handles the grant-making program for the county and the tourist development tax. And last year, you know, a lot of nonprofits in the arts community took a hit from the county with respect to the grants that they got. So the county commission has asked, and the TDC has asked the Arts and Cultural Alliance to create a new program. They're really tightening up on their criteria for making grants. The criteria are focused primarily on the number of tourists that go to the programs that they finance with grants. And to do that, they've redefined what a tourist is. A tourist is not somebody from Sarasota County or Manatee County or Charlotte County. It's someone from outside of that. And every organization that gets a grant for which they'll be reimbursed will have to find out what the zip code is for 100% of their attendees at the event for which they've asked for reimbursement.
That's really easy.
Yeah.
You want to?
That is, well, there are 30 pages of slides that will be presented tomorrow by the Arts and Cultural Alliance to the TDC, explaining how they're going to try to do this. But it will be up to each of the arts organizations to find a way to do it themselves, where they can get the zip code for every attendee at the event that they're going to ask for reimbursement for. So we'll see how that goes.
And that's because it's funded by a tax on hotel stays?
It's been funded for years
No, I know.
by a tax.
No, I mean, I'm
But
on
they've
one
been-
of those
They,
receiving associations.
the county commission is really focused on return on investment. They want to know they're getting something for their tourist tax.
Yeah,
They're getting tourists. So
yeah.
that's it. So don't ask me any questions because I can't answer them. Okay. Discover Sarasota has an art crawl. It's an annual event, costs $25. It's a hop on, hop off thing where you visit 20 galleries and studios in downtown Sarasota. And there's one on January 10th, another on February 14th, March 14th, and April 11th. And the Arts and Cultural Alliance gets $5 off of each of those $25 tickets. So if you're interested, their beer and wine and appetizers come with all these gallery visits. I had a meeting with Steve Cover recently about the project on First Street where the city has bought land, 2 plots of land across from City Hall to build affordable housing. Would be 100% affordable housing. And I said to him, you know, the arts community has as a need for both short-term and long-term affordable housing. And I asked him if he would be willing to use the Arts and Cultural Alliance as a point for getting information about what kind of structures, what kinds of operations, what kinds of costs would be affordable for the arts community. And he has agreed to do that. So, but it's early in the process. I did check with Ian Black about the purchase. It's closed. It's paid for. The city owns the land now. I talked to Doug Jeffcoat. He said that they're negotiating with the foundations who've agreed to provide funding for the construction of the buildings. And I also talked to Steve Cover. And as I said already, and he said he will talk to the Arts and Cultural Alliance and try to get input from them on how these should be designed. And the last thing I have is the Ringling College has an art walk every year, and there's going to be one later in January. I think it's the 24th of January. And it covers all the galleries on the campus. And there's a very interesting, from my perspective anyway, gallery exhibit, the Willis Smith Gallery in the Larry Thompson building, which is tintypes of same-sex couples from the 1800s. There are 200 of them. The collection has about 600 altogether. But anyway, I got to know the guy who owns the collection. And he doesn't know anything about this. He just bought the damn things because he was fascinated with the fact that they were same-sex couples showing affection to one another. So I've put him together with a conservator from the Ringling Art Museum who can help him evaluate all of the tintypes as to their condition. She will catalog them for him. She will give him advice on how to preserve them. So that's really exciting to have those kinds of resources in our community where you can help people preserve the art. So that's very interesting.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What's the difference between an art walk and an art crawl?
Drinking.
Oh, drinking.
Wine. That's it. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Next item is Associates and Events Committee. And I had thought Jamie or Kathy would be here. So let me try. The Spring Platinum Workshop we've been talking about, and I shared one idea with a few of you, and one of the concepts is to do something a little bit different by bringing in an outside speaker. And I've had a recommendation of like the former mayor of St. Petersburg, and we're thinking of this idea of bringing an outside perspective as the master plan committee work gets underway, of this idea of lessons learned, so to speak, or if they had to do it all over again. And so we're thinking for ideas. And Commissioner Jen, I see you're here, and I know you might have some ideas on this, but the overarching concept is, rather than a panel of locals, shall we say, city staff or experts or whatever, what if we brought in an outside speaker to add a different kind of perspective? So any input on that kind of
Yeah,
direction?
How about someone from Naples?
Okay.
I think they went through a master plan update recently.
Okay.
I just view Naples in a big picture as our chief competitor on the West Coast in terms of attracting tourist dollars and retirees.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be good to learn from their experiences.
Okay, and let's talk, and if you have some specific names and things like that, our other targets, but the overarching idea of an outside speaker to mix things up a little bit differently is something we thought might have some interest amongst our associate members and, the population, and maybe add in some indirect way value to the master committee folks in some way. Any more discussion on that? We'll come back with some more specifics for you. One of the target dates, I think, was April 5th, and help me think through our annual meeting needs. What, Patrick, we've tended to do.
Well, 3 years ago, we had Dr. Rowe. So we
Right.
had an outside guest speaker and used that event to bring in quite a bit of audience. We still had our member meeting for that. We've had other types of workshops. Sometimes it was like homeless workshop as part of that member meeting, but typically some type of guest speaker has been a thing that focuses more on the needs of the actual people in the buildings versus the workshops that are more focused on the needs of the buildings associations.
So help me think through time. If we're doing it at our annual meeting, could we allocate, pick a number, 30, 45 minutes for the speaker and still do the annual meeting?
The meeting itself is 30 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Only.
Okay, so your thought is a speaker, a Jenny Rowe type model, for lack of a
Like I say, we've done a range. So that has been the thing. And typically, I think our bylaws reference it being in March or.
Okay, and one small factor, Easter is quite late this year, so that may tend to elongate the season a little bit. I'm not really expert on that kind
The
of
thing
stuff.
is having a spread between the two different events.
Yeah.
Both from the internal planning and organizing perspective, and the second from attracting audiences. There's usually at least a month difference. Dates,
Okay.
ranges.
All right, let us come back, with more specifics, and Peter, I'll get with you about the Naples thing, and Commissioner Jen, if you have
there's
thoughts.
an attorney that represented Encore was on the city commission at Naples. So I thought she knows our areas. I don't know where she lives, but she was quite articulate, so she could be someone that might be worth talking to.
Okay, is there any concern about Naples being too, how do I say this? Not competitive, but
No,
too.
it's a different demographic.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, 15 years.
It's got a lot of walls around it.
Well, okay, it has more private areas of Jersey.
It's very private.
Ooh, cool.
The culture is very different.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's
Well,
talk about
maybe,
it.
but I just think if you're someone that lives up north
Mhm.
and you have some degree of, resources,
Mhm.
Naples has Ritz-Carlton residences, Sarasota has Ritz-Carlton, there are choices that we both kind of offer in terms of living.
The government is very different there. The culture of the government is there. I've been down there.
Yeah.
I've worked there. I've tried to get things done there. It's very different, and the people are scared of one another. They're afraid they're going to lose their private club memberships.
I think one of the things we can do maybe is, you're not gonna decide it today, that's for sure. I would turn this over to the events committee.
Yep,
And add,
There's some-
basically 3 people, you can add,
yep,
you added me because we had the homeless forum
right.
as an event last time.
all right. Okay,
And
okay,
I think that events committee ought to tighten this thing up quite a bit and bring back a recommendation at the
Maybe-
next meeting.
Some other people.
Yeah, no, add some people.
okay. All right, Green Space Committee, that gotten feathered into other stuff. On the homeless, Peter, talk to us about what you would like.
Oh, well, as you know, we had a very successful meeting last month in our workshops on.
Oh, no, here.
Oh, okay. Okay. On our homeless forum, it was very well attended. It was anywhere from, I don't know, 100 to 150. We don't go over 135 because that's what the fire marshal says we can have there in that building. At any rate, it was very successful. We got good reports back. I want to thank the city commission for their commissioners who attended. It was nice to see them and see them shaking their head like this once in a while and saying, good job, and we're glad you're doing this. So thank you, and Commissioner Ahern, bring that back to your colleagues. I'd very much appreciate it. A couple of things going on now, one of which is coming up, Suncoast Partnership to end homelessness is having their point in time count January 27th and 28th. That's a Monday and a Tuesday. And I'll pass these around. Please take it. They're looking for volunteers. I think it would be great if some of the residents or many of the residents would volunteer to put people at ease. You do go out, but you're accompanied by people who are experts in these kinds of things and working with people without shelter. There you can scan the UR code, and that brings up an interest application, and that's what it is. You'd fill it out and saying, I'm interested, I'd like to know more. Taylor Neighbors and her group at the Suncoast would be glad to make contact with you. I am volunteering as well, so that's something that's very important. I don't know if everybody's familiar, but point in time count drives the amount of funding that each community gets based on the number of unsheltered people on that particular 24-hour period. So the part of the things that we're going to be looking at with Suncoast this month, because they're so important to the community and the number of things that they're doing. The HUD report came out early this month, and everybody again is very much concerned that the increase in the homelessness nationwide was about 18%. That's 18% over the 2023 count, for a total of about 770,000 people without shelter in the nation. And it's probably many more than that, but that's based on the one-day count. And this surge probably can be attributed somewhat to the ending of the pandemic-related aid that was available during the pandemic, which allowed for an increase of programming and so forth, and aid that could be distributed. The other piece that I see all of a sudden has been jumping up, and I've been saying for several years now, the number one cause for homelessness is they don't have homes. And that's really difficult. So the surge, the National League of Cities, which is an organization that focuses on urban quality of life, has their opinion that the best way to end homelessness is to ensure that all individuals have access to stable, affordable housing. You might have seen in last, I think it was Sunday's, Herald Tribune, John Thaxton, who you all know, had an opinion piece on about affordable housing. I will have in the newsletter, I've checked with David, I'll have a link to this so that you can go on if you didn't see it. But that stable housing is an extremely important element to ending homelessness. The last thing that I want to mention is that, no, in fact, I won't. I'll if you look at the newsletter when it comes out, there's a little blurb that I put together. I'm trying something from my research end with the folks up at Emory in Atlanta. They've become very interested in the homelessness problem up there, and they knew of my interest and my contacts up there. So I've agreed to take a look at treating this more of as a public health program. And my appointments at Emory and Hopkins were in the School of Public Health. And I'm going to treat it as a comorbidity problem. And comorbidity, as you know, in the medical term, one condition is always in association with another, like autism and learning disability. If you have autism, you probably have a learning disability. You have a learning disability, you have a propensity towards autism. Well, and we don't usually use that in the socioeconomic realm, social or economic, but I've been looking at some of the research and a lot of what communities are doing nationwide. And I think we have a comorbid problem here in homelessness and lack of affordable housing. People who can't don't have affordable housing often become homeless. People who are homeless don't have. So one affects the other. If you can bring balance between those two, you can make a significant structural change in the homeless problem. So you'll be seeing more of that. And I'm trying to, again, engage the community. We use this little blurb in the newsletter, and we'll ask the community to give some suggestions about what do you think of that? How would you approach this? And so forth. So we're going to try to be more proactive in engagement of the community for some of these solutions, rather than from a top down, try to bring a little bit more community up. Because the community still thinks, I mean, there's a segment of the community still thinks we don't do very much for homelessness, and we've got to turn that thing around, and the best way is through communication. So thank you.
And recognition to you, Peter, for that workshop. There has been some,
we had a great
some,
panel. It had nothing to do with me. Those
the
six people
panel
up there were
and
geniuses.
mention of that being helpful. So thank you. That's health and safety. Anything on that?
Oh,
per
health and
se?
safety. Well, I probably should. The community watch program got postponed because of the hurricane, and was going to get kicked off at National Night Out, which was going to be October, but now it's May, I think 5th. And I've been working with the community liaison, police officers in the police department, with how we had a whole presentation ready to go in October. We're moving it all up and update for May, and there'll be some minor activities going on in the community before that, but that hasn't been dropped. The police department is very anxious for us to get engaged in that and try to bring more residents into the see something, say something program.
Okay. Moving on to transportation. Roger, let me. There was a Main Street workshop or show and tell. I was not here for it. Is there any discussion or feedback on that? It was December 17th. The objective of the transportation group was to get input. I'm aware that, of course, the one of the tensions on that is the parking, the merchants and their desire to maintain street parking, shall we say, and the conflict with that, if you will, on wider sidewalks, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know where their next step is. I think, are they going to 30, do they have money for 30% concepts? Oh, okay.
Did someone here attend?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you can weigh in too, Sandra, but the parking was the big issue. And it also, there was a sense that all these things were predetermined and that the input being provided may not be taken into account. That was kind of the general sense of the people that were walking around over there, sort of like predetermined. Other than that, do you think of anything else, Sandra?
I think you captured it. It was a very telling. Well, first of all, it was organized very well. They had these posters, you walked around, but there was not open Q&A at all. It was a telling, it was like, this is what we're doing. We don't have approval for this, but we you know, we'll come back to you in some period of time. And then you just walked around to all the stations, and certainly there was a lot of dialogue individually about parking. However, the project team that was present really was not able to answer questions because they were saying we weren't at that stage yet. This is a visioning. We're just giving you our vision. Not a lot of tactics in terms of how this is going to impact here and what are some real solutions.
Okay,
It was very high level.
okay, to be continued. I mean,
Yes.
okay.
Is that an ongoing practice that what gets put out in a telling mode, and there's never any real direct consultation with what happens on the ground to the partners? We're seeing that right now at West End Boulevard of the Arts. Everybody's bought into some visioning that doesn't take into effect that they are denuding the street at a time when they're increasing heat island effect by putting 18-story buildings and removing canopy coverage.
Right.
So
And-
that's an ongoing issue that needs to be
And I
addressed.
am,
I appreciate that.
and I am reaching out to Nick and others. Now where some of this comes together is Boulevard of the Arts, 10th, complete street. There may be an email on my phone right now. We will know if that $12 million grant, we're going, I think this is essentially the fourth try. We should know in the next couple of days if that money is available. Literally, that could, on this idea of dealing with the Hyatt, it could, if that grant comes in, it kind of makes real the need to dust off and, I'm going to say finalize, revisit their complete street plans with input. And I would certainly hope that with commission, if that enormity of a product, it goes to the commission. Now, I don't know exactly how that happens, but I think that's the only appropriate thing for the community and the commission. So keep your fingers crossed that we literally will know in the next couple days. And heaven knows with change in administration, what kind of raise grants are going to happen in the future. We'll see, but hopefully we're fortunate this time. The other,
whether or not there's a grant money coming in, it appears that the engineering staff has decided that the vision is totally approved, and that is what's being dictated to the developers. That there's not a questioning of whether or not funds are available.
I'm not sure I agree. I mean,
The city is saying that they are going to reimburse the developers for any changes they make into the right of way regarding in coordinates with the quote complete streets vision. So, or 60%. So the city is planning to reimburse the developer for any of that cost. The question is, where is that money coming from to reimburse the developer for right of way change?
okay, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm confused by some of the process, but we're trying to get a meeting with Nick because the Hyatt is kind of a subset of the complete street effort, and that complicates it. So we need and want to understand more. Okay, the new news we have, a little bit new news, is Fruitville was talked about at Monday's City Commission meeting, and from an NPO project, and I know this is getting in the weeds, it was voted to try and move that up in a sense, priority-wise. So where this is headed, I don't know. I do know that the city staff just yesterday was holding meetings on the CIP budget for next year. So where Fruitville is for any funding for dusting off some of the concepts of about 5 years ago, I don't know.
David, I think we're comfortable with the acronyms MPO and CIP, but maybe some of the folks
Okay.
don't know exactly.
CIP is the Capital Improvement Program. That's the city's capital budget, if you will. And MPO is Metropolitan Planning Organization. It's the regional transportation planning organization. But I mean, I guess the punchline is Fruitville, which has been in kind of backburnered for the last 3 years, I would say, may be able to be back under discussion for possible action. Again, a lot of work was done 5 years ago. And the question is, the point I made is we now have the roundabouts completed, number one, and we've been through 2 or 3 hurricanes. So we know what people did or didn't do evacuation wise. So we've got some empirical information there about that. Moving on, zoning committee.
Did you want to mention the transportation guest speaker?
Oh, yeah. We learned that Hoyt Architects appears, I don't know if it's in concrete at this point, but on January 28th, may be bringing into town a transportation expert. It's a person from Seattle who has national, international experience in public transportation planning. And so much in the way when Jeff Speck came to town some years ago, or other subject matter experts or authorities. And I think the objective is to have Hoyt pay for this and facilitate dialogue with the community, the commission staff on public transportation, best practices.
Say that name again, Hoyt.
Hoyt, Hoyt Architects. Okay, so I'm hoping to have some more details on this today. I don't, but kind of pencil in when on the 28th, I don't know, but it would be the 28th. Next item, zoning code stuff. There's Saravella condo project, 271 proposed units. Would be the largest single condo building in the city, and I think the county. A street vacation associated with that project is coming to the DRC next week. The site plan, the third go at that, a couple weeks later. So it's something that your zoning group is interested in and watching. Of course, the alley vacation being a significant matter for discussion. Hyatt talked a little about that's moving through the process. And the Miramar.
The one part people are suing.
Right. I don't know if they're suing.
Well, no, they have asked to appeal the decision. So they had to be granted effective party status, but they want to appeal the decision of the planning board that which allowed the driveway to be moved in a recent planning board meeting. But they have a ton of issues with the Hyatt development. So that will be litigated, I'm sure.
And in my time, I don't recall a developer going after a developer. And maybe Commissioner
Well, these guys are.
Yeah, so we'll see. It's hard to keep track of this stuff. And then the Miramar, the comp plan change for that, I guess, is moving forward, and seems to be some pretty good feeling about that project being proposed. Bay Park Conservancy, Bob?
Basically, I met with Trey Hamlet. And there's been some new, well, I don't say new developments, but I mean, the Bay's moving right along. They're putting most of their emphasis into the cultural center, the street along there. In fact, they did have some new graphics. I think, Patrick, we've got that graphic of the new
Oh, yeah.
of the new town square that they're putting up. That's new, even though new means it'll be completed by the end of 26. But that one of the, and then that's sort of the overhead of it. That's probably the best picture of what it'll kind of look like. It's going to be a multi-use facility, kind of in the same look of the Nest to some extent. And it's going to have a stage area, and that's going to be very nice. That's basically where Plaza Santo Domingo is now currently, where that's a roadway. It won't be a roadway obviously anymore. It's going to be the town hall in there between the municipal building and such. So that's sort of the direction that they're going. They've made some headway, slow headway. They've completed the dredging of the canal district. Of course, that was found to be contaminated, so they had to dispose of that silt, 3,000 yards of silt that they had to take care of, given that it was contaminated, so they couldn't just dump it somewhere. That's kind of what's happening, and sort of what I've alluded to before. It's going to take a while to get the dock in. They still haven't gotten approval to even put the seawall in as of yet. So that's moving at snail's pace, but that seems to be the way things go, dealing with the Corps of Engineers and all of the other people that are involved in that. The other kind of, I won't say news, but it looks like the Sunset Pier may be waning. In some ways, it's a result of them cleaning up the bayou, and that there's more and more seagrass growing in there, which means that's the change in how the dock is. There's also been some coral that's been discovered or revisited or rebuilt. Anyway, the bottom line is the Sunset Pier may not be something that gets built, but they said they'll use that money somewhere else, which I'm sure they'll find some place to put it. So that's, yeah.
Was there anything specific said, or you're just?
Well, it was it's not that it's taken out of the budget. They're still working on it, but they've spent 40 months trying to get approval for it, and it's snail's pace again. And the dilemma is that what they have on the boards right now is radically modified, but versus the big arch that they had at one point in time on their plans. Again, a lot of that is because they're trying to encourage the growth of the seagrass and so forth. And again, it's kind of a victim of its own success in the fact that the bayou there, where the bridge is that goes over between phase one and the Van Weasel, that bayou there has really, the water there, quality is cleaned up dramatically in there, and it's causing good things to happen. And then in a weird way, the bad thing is the good things to happen means it's harder and harder to build a structure over that, because they don't want to destroy that potential of that improvement. You know, one of the things with, I know one of the things that they do in just looking at the dock area, for instance, and this is dock area anywhere, is things like the amount of gapping between the boards, so there's enough light getting through to be able to afford things like seagrass and such to grow. So it's pretty intense scrutiny that they go through, and that's sort of falling to the point of that.
Okay. Yeah, and I thought it was $20 million price tag on the pier that was a factor too. Okay. CCNA meeting on Saturday, there was a presentation about sewer and water lines, and most of it was outside of DSCA area. And to be honest with you, some of this, I mean, there's some significant work that's going to be going on the North Trail. It's going to involve some road disruptions and so forth, but it's apparently replacing some lines that were from the 60s that are concrete asbestos. So kind of has to be done for capacity and environmental reasons. I don't think I have any, there's probably other stuff from CCNA, but nothing unless you, Judy, unless you, no, okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I don't, Rosemary District Association, community meeting last night, probably of 100 people. Thank you, Commissioner Jen, for attending, some good conversations. There was a fair bit of conversation about the growing parking issue and the drip parking issue, including, and here's the irony of it, built the lofts on Lemon, 128 unit affordable housing thing. Now we want to build a very desirable second phase of that, but it's going to disrupt parking for a year and a half of the existing residents. You know, so this idea I think that Patrick and others have brought up, in the old days, you would have spaces between projects. So when you needed to stage something or find parking, no big deal. Now that things are getting more densely packed and there's those options are getting fewer and fewer. And so again, this time bomb over in the Quay to a degree with the Hyatt and whatever kind of going on. And, you know, the observation is city needs, you know, we can foresee a train wreck. So, you know, how are we going to kind of mitigate that? And that's this parking issue in the Rosemary, hopefully.
Also, oversight of construction projects. And construction teams, down to the lowest guy in the pickup truck and his team coming in there, they don't know what was put in the staging plan approvals, and they're just parking wherever. And so that comes down to the city recognizing that in this downtown area, with all this increased simultaneous construction, there needs to be better oversight, and it's not occurring. And we're losing right of ways.
I found out, because we have, 4 projects going on at Golden Gate Point. This is a really big issue. We had a special meeting here at City Hall. In order to get a building permit, they have to provide for off-site parking for workers and an off-site staging area for large pieces of construction equipment. They have to sign that they will provide that in order to get the building permit. It's not a matter of being nice to the neighbors. And so consequently, there are penalties that can ensue if they are reported. There's a guy named Steve Owen that you call. I have his cell phone. And if you take a picture of the license plate of an illegally parked worker's car, he will come and give him a ticket. So there, you just have to know how these things work. But that is an issue across. A lot of people don't know that they have a right to require enforcement of those 2 provisions of a building permit.
And have you tried to get a staging plan? And have you tried to find one? How do you go about doing that? I was told that you have to file a request for public information to the clerk's office to obtain a staging plan, and then to obtain any the access closures through movement of traffic. So it is not very available to find out that information.
Okay. All right. The final thing discussed at the Rosemary was the Colson Hotel. An effort to secure that was successful. Now the process of what to do and what to do with it. So hats off to Anad Palagar and the group that were involved in this effort. I mean, it's really kind of memorable. And then the final thing, there was a new Rosemary board seated. And that's what I have.
So the Colson Hotel is kind of like the dog finally caught the car and.
Yeah. And then good luck with finding parking for the new event there. Okay. Platinum Associate, I see Steve. I see Tony. Have you got any news?
Yeah, just extremely quickly. quickly, a couple things. Our rebuild process is proceeding nicely through the city, which is wonderful and encouraging, given all the moving parts we have to deal with. And on a very nice surprise we had shortly before the holidays, our little boating, social, and tennis club on the bay was awarded honorable mention by the Platinum Club of America. What that means is that we are extremely close to achieving our goal, which is to become a premier platinum club, which is quite an accomplishment for a little social club of folks, which is kind of what we are on the Sarasota Bay. So we'll keep you advised as to how that progresses.
Okay, and I think I'm not seeing anybody else. Are there any member rep final comments? Jim, have you got anything?
Well,
Peter?
just one thing I'll mention, a little bit ago, we had a very good presentation from Steve Shaw about hot wire. And right now, we're in discussions at the Mark to make use of his service.
Great. Okay. I want to recognize Commissioner Jen. Thank you for being here. A long time no see. Okay. Okay.
Can I say just a couple words?
Oh, okay. Just.
You know, because
yes.
it's special, right?
Yeah, I'm over on time, so just pretty quick, please.
All right, super quick. Patrick, how to get a staging plan? Email, call me. I will ask for you. Okay?
No, I can get them from the clerk's office.
All right. But if you need to, get in touch with me. And Peter, we did talk about the homeless meeting that you had at the city commission. Many commissioners mentioned it and thanked you for that. So we did give you kudos on that one. Ken, as a note, our artists, there are very few protected classes in affordable housing, and artists are one of them. So your conversation may be easier had knowing that. As a speaker suggestion, Andrew Georgiadis is a local resource I would recommend. And a few other things. US Recycling, did you share that?
We have not talked.
So US Recycling, which is right here, has surrendered their concrete crushing permit. So after 5 years of constant pressure, they will no longer be crushing concrete as of night before last. So that's excellent news. No more pounding, no more concrete dust in the air. And the last is tonight is the installation of Polly, the sculpture at 14th Street Roundabout. I believe it starts at 8 o'clock tonight. It's nothing official. You just want to go and check out the installation of a beautiful sculpture. That'll be happening tonight. That's it, David.
Okay. Our next meeting is February 5th, and Kelly Brown, president of CCNA, will be our guest speaker. So unless there's anything else, let's consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you.